I'm Angie Weidel. You can read my little bio in the thing so you know who I am. And yes, I'm married to Joe Weidel, who was up here earlier. We have 7 children between us. We're a blended family. No, I didn't give birth to 7. But everybody always asks me that. You have 7? Yes, we have 7. And it's a challenge, and they keep us running all the time, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And these guys are going to introduce themselves to you in just a second. I am business development and estimator at Bart's office, and I am also the executive director of the American Subcontractors Association. So everything that we're going to be talking about today is going to be very near and dear to my heart, both in my day job and in my hobbies and with 7 children. I wanted to ask real quick in the room, how many of you operate in your business as a DBE? Do you know what a DBE is? You know, a woman-owned business, a minority-owned business, a veteran-owned business, something like that. Just by show of hands, tell me how many of you operate as a DBE? None of you operate as a DBE. 1. I know Henry Beard is in here. Henry operates as, okay, he ran to the restroom. So I know he's a veteran-owned business, yeah. Okay, so not very many of you. Well, we're going to be discussing some things, this particular panel, that may or may not seem to appeal to you. And this is going to be a discussion on sustainability. And I want you to open your mind about what sustainability is, because you're going to hear some terms like ESG that you may have been like, la, 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 that does not apply to me, but it might. It might well apply to you. And I want you to set aside any particular ideology or political connotation that you may have put onto some of these terms, because we're going to address them in a very different way. So I want you guys to be prepared for that. So let's start at the end of the table with Mr. Jace. Jace, go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll come on down with Leroy and John.
I'm Jace Duga, the owner of Additive Innovators. We're bringing 3D printing, 3D scanning to commercial levels to all different business facets and universities in the state.
And tell us about your family life.
Oh, yes. I'm a father of 2 wonderful daughters and married to my wife. We live in New Iberia, Louisiana. That's it.
He got 2 kids, y'all. All right, go ahead, Leroy.
Good afternoon. My name is Leroy St. Pierre. I work with Waste Pro. I'm a regional sales manager. I live in Laplace, Louisiana, right outside of New Orleans. Been with Waste Pro for over 5 years. Previous to that, I was in procurement with Marathon Petroleum for 12. So I jumped the desk, so to speak. I'm the father of 5 kids. My oldest daughter is a chemical engineer in Florida. Son's a warrant officer in the Army. I have one that's a school teacher. A daughter that is a medical deputy, and a son that's a senior in high school, and he wants to be an orthopedic surgeon. So very diverse crew.
Nice.
So is it true that your husband is a musician?
Yes, we both are.
Okay, you as well. Okay, well.
And the kids are musicians too. We have a few of them that play and sing too.
So am I. I'm a drummer and a singer in an Eagles tribute band. I'm based out of Houston, Texas. So my weekends are traveling to Houston, Texas. So I'll be leaving tomorrow to play a show.
Nice. Okay, you're going to have to come hang out at my house, because we got all the
Done
instruments
deal.
at my house. All right, Mr. John.
All right, I'm not sure if I can top that, but so my name is John Emas. I teach supply chain management at Southeastern, or I should say the Southeastern Louisiana University. And so I've been teaching there now just for a little over 2 years. I actually worked in industry for over 30 years. I started my journey as a supply chain professional getting my degree from Arizona State University. I was one of the first graduates of that program, along with schools like Michigan State, Tennessee, Penn State. And I was looking around the room, and I noticed, I've gotten older over the years. I do see some people that may be older than me, and I was thinking about the fact that some of you might have met people like me when I graduated from Arizona State who came and to companies like Dow Chemical and Bayer and Monsanto and all these places to change how we bought things, how we managed logistics, and so on. So I was part of that first wave of just-in-time inventory, asking you guys to become integrators, strategic sourcing, all those kinds of things. Later, I decided to go back to school. I got my graduate degree from Penn State University, and I had the opportunity at the same time to be working for some really great companies, including Dow Chemical, Bayer, Pfizer, Monsanto. And during that time, I worked mostly in supply chain management. I decided to retire at the end of 2019. I was working at Bayer. I had been working as the head of engineering for Bayer's largest production facility in the world, just outside of New Orleans. And my boss asked me about moving to Germany. My wife is actually from Louisiana, so many of you might know the rest of the story. She said, "You can go to Germany. I'm not going." So I retired at the end of 2019. I was hoping to always teach, and so that was one of my goals in life, was to go back and teach at the university level. I was very thankful that Southeastern reached out to me to ask about teaching, and I started once they brought classes back after COVID. So one of the things I did want to also just say as part of my introduction is that I have truly had a wonderful career as a supply chain professional. And that would not have been possible if not for people like you who arrived at my university and said we wanted to hire interns. I was an intern at Dow Chemical, and that started the process for me and allowed me to have a wonderful life in supply chain management. So I want to thank all of you that come to our classes and come to our schools to recruit our students, because I would not be sitting here today had it not been for people like you that come and hire our students as interns and as entry-level employees. So thank you for that. And also I wanted to thank SCBR and also our sponsors for allowing us to have a table for Southeastern to talk to you about what we offer and how we can help you.
Yeah. So awesome stuff. So now we're going to start with you, Mr. John, because you teach this all day long. I would like for you to give us a definition, just because the word sustainability can be very, very subjective depending on your industry, depending on what you know, and again, depending on the ideology that you kind of grew up with. So what are we discussing today when it comes to ideology? Can you define, sustainability? Can you define that for us?
Yes, so the definition has really changed over the many years that we've heard of the term sustainability. And I know when I first started my career, I don't even think we used the term sustainability. We had other names for it, like responsible care and other types of programs that were out there. And over the years, it's evolved to where some people, and if you see the handout on your tables, please take that back with you, but a lot of people associate sustainability with the environment and doing things like EV vehicles and robots and things like that. But it is much broader, and it's being redefined every single day by governments and organizations and corporations that have their own definitions. And so one of the things that we'll talk a little bit about is the fact that there are many different groups that have worked on defining what ESG is, the environmental social governance movement that's been going on. There's also the United Nations 17 goals that the United Nations have put together to define what sustainability is. Then there are corporations like Walmart who have developed and implemented programs like their Gigaton project that many of you may be struggling to manage right now and to support. And then the California state laws that are being passed as we speak that will change the environmental laws across the country and affect every company in this room, whereby the Scope 3 reporting requirements will affect all companies up and down the supply chain. So these are organizations that have redefined sustainability over the years. There is no one single definition. There are just all these different organizations that have their own definition. And I guess what I'm wanting to talk about today is the fact that it's much broader than electronic vehicles. It's much broader than some of the woke things that we've heard about in the news and so on. But it talks about things, for example, with ESG. It does cover environmental. ESG is environmental, societal, and governance. So environment can include things like all the panelists talked about today. I was thinking about that before I came up. We've been talking about sustainability all day, when it comes to using digitization, whatever, however we call that, but digitizing work that we do and creating the efficiencies that we need to operate our businesses in a much more efficient manner. It's using these tools to optimize our warehouses and our routing of trucks. It's also what we talked about in the second panel in terms of facilities design and how we build our facilities and being able to create facilities that minimize movement of people and equipment from place to place. And all of these things are part of what now is considered sustainability. We might not think about that as sustainability, but all those activities are being done to reduce waste and to minimize the amount of energy that's being used and released into the environment. We also have, for the most part, companies that for decades have been practicing things around health care for their employees and offering health care to their employees. ESG talks about safety and the need to provide a safe work environment for your employees. And I know that everybody in this room has safety programs and works very hard to keep their employees safe. So whether you knew it or not, you've already been involved in implementing a number of sustainable programs. But ESG is now something that governments are adopting. In Europe already, you must adopt and report all your environmental, sustainable, and governance goals as part of your annual reporting process. The United Nations is asking all companies to adopt the 17 goals, and I encourage you to look at that. Those goals include ending poverty, ending hunger, gender equality, reducing inequality, along with all the other environmental aspects. And then also you have Walmart and the state of California. So there's lots of definitions out there. We're going to talk more about it as we go today. But it's a very broad topic, broader than maybe what you think as just those purely environmental elements. And there are a lot of things you're already doing that you could consider as sustainable.
Very good. All right, Mr. Leroy, you work in waste. So talk to us about the challenge that you see at Waste Pro that a lot of companies face with regard to sustainability. We had this discussion before about cost.
Right. So just for everyone's information, recycling waste it's a hot topic, and it should be. To be green as a country, as a region, so cost involved with it. It costs green to be green. It's pretty simple. Just to give you an idea, to drop something in a landfill, waste in a landfill, you're probably looking $40 to $50 a ton to dispose of it. To single stream recycle, which means that it's glass, cardboard, paper, different products go into a pound, has to be sorted out. $180 to $200 a ton to process. So if you look at the difference there, it's hard for companies to be green without having to spend a lot of green. So it's unfortunate, and hopefully as a society we move that needle to have it more cost effective for us to actually reuse waste.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about some of those solutions coming up. Jace, throw your 2 cents worth in there about all that. Speaking of solutions and problems that people are having with regard to sustainability.
Yes, our solution is definitely 3D printing. We are recycling all of the material, only utilizing what you exactly need, which in turn lowers the cost of the products and provides a customer with a more durable product that lasts a lot longer. Also, digitizing inventories is a huge thing that we're doing to reduce physical inventories, reduce taxes the companies have to pay, and labor that's involved in keeping up inventories. So with the digitization and the 3D printing, we're seeing a dramatic reduction in costs for companies.
Okay, Jace, I want you to tell them your Baker Hughes story.
Oh, yes. So this is going to be released to next month. You'll see it in the news and stuff, but I'm good to speak about it right now. Baker Hughes is one of our largest customers throughout the world. They have over 12 facilities, additive manufacturing facilities set up across the world at strategic locations. And instead of having to source out, find material, build parts that they need, they're actually 3D printing the parts on demand at the source of consumption. So it's reducing logistics by 85% almost, and giving them more control of their supply. So instead of having to wait, they have the parts within a couple days instead of a couple weeks, and they're able to get online faster and definitely cut out a lot of cost.
So in this particular situation, Baker Hughes is choosing to bypass having to order their stuff from overseas and making themselves manufacturing independent, as we would call it.
Manufacturing independence, yes, for sure.
That's pretty cool. And how does your company work with that? Tell us more about the actual specifics of don't give us anything that's, classified. Because
Yeah.
nobody wants to be killed after this. But, tell us a little bit more of what you can about how your company is actually providing that.
Yeah, we're supplying Baker Hughes with the machines and the equipment, 3D scanning, 3D printing equipment to do it, and the materials as well. But we're also working with tons of other large oil and gas corporations, automotive corporations, medical corporations. So we're not just in one facet of each business, we're spread out across every facet. Even the jewelry industry is huge, utilizing 3D printing for making jewelry. You see it, anything you got on your hand, at one point it was 3D printed.
Okay, y'all. He's being very modest. And he's being very quiet. First time I ever met Jace, he was very tall and very quiet. And then as we were talking, and the whole time I'm thinking 3D printing, I'm thinking plastic, right? The little thing goes in the deal and the plastic comes out. I have a friend that I used to work with in another company, and she would make her own Legos, basically, with her 3D printer. Or somebody would make, a dice tower or whatever out of their 3D printer. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. You can do that at home. And I'm looking at Jace and I'm going, Baker Hughes is doing what? I was like totally confused. And so as we kind of talked more, Jace was like, oh no, our company does things like 3D print skin. And I went, wait, what? And that's when I realized the extent of the 3D printing industry. Like, we're not just talking about your basic setup, at the house, in the garage. We're talking about some really, really fancy stuff. So am I the only one in the room that was like, plastic? Yeah, please tell me I'm not the only one, yeah. But yeah, so this is a big deal to be able to print your own parts, your own pieces, and have them literally sitting at the warehouse on site. That's huge. What does that do for waste reduction? Like how much of that, like when you go to print it, how much of that reduces the waste? Are you creating more waste by the stuff going off?
No, actually we recycle 90% of the product that is not being, so we are printing 718 Inconels, any type of metals pretty much you could possibly think of, to resins, wax, plastics, even biomedical stuff like Angie mentioned. There's hardly no waste at all because of the fact you recycle what you don't use and only use what you need with 3D printing. Unless, like traditional manufacturing, you'd have to buy material, cut it away, remove all the material, and then have a part left. With 3D printing, you're just printing out exactly what you need, and what you have left over, you recycle for your next build. Automatically goes into recycling.
That's pretty cool. All right, Leroy, I'm going to skip you for a second. John, when you're in your classroom and you're talking to your students, do you talk about stuff like that as far as regard to ESG and the things that you're teaching in your classroom?
So we do talk about 3D printing a lot in terms of a strategy for postponement and postponing the manufacturing of an item all the way to the point where companies like Nike now are 3D printing their shoes in certain stores. So you can go into a store and you can design a shoe right in the store and have it printed in the store. And that cuts out a lot of the use of different resources to get the product from maybe Asia all the way to the stores. So we'll see how that goes, but we do talk about 3D printing, and then of course the recycling of the materials to be able to reuse those materials to produce other new products. That's a big part of our discussion.
Yeah, I know that for Bart's, we are a commercial relocation firm. We do a lot of work with various large hotels like this. So when they get ready to do a complete remodel, we'll wind up doing what they call a receive, deliver, install. We'll receive it. We'll then, in our warehouse, deliver it to them, install their furnishings and those kinds of things. And we are very big on each project trying to reduce that waste and making sure that we are recycling. And that's usually comes down from the top. You know, if you're on a construction project, they're usually going to try to have those recycling issues. One of the things that I know that my company is very big on is the human element. And we've talked about, you know, everything from investment. Now you're dealing with independence in manufacturing. You're dealing with all of that. We've talked about sort of robotics and the horrible AI word and all those kinds of things. And you've got green, and everybody's like, green. Well, let's talk about workforce, because workforce shortage is a big deal. Everybody's suffering from it. Everybody's got those issues. So we want to make sure that we are mindful of, while we're favoring technology, we're not reducing the human element. So one of the ways that Bart's does that is Bart's goes through, and we are what we call a second chance company. We have folks that have been in prison, and we put them back to work. But if I can't get them work as a business developer, then what starts to happen is they fall victim to the same practices. If they're sitting, idle hands, you know what they say about idle hands. And so they kind of wind up getting back into a system that they have tried so hard to get out of. So it's very, very important that I, as a business developer, and that my owners are cognizant of the fact that we've got to keep working. So as we go to that, this is your moment, Leroy. I want you to tell your story about what you did, and start from when you pulled each driver in and did the interview individually, because Leroy's got a hell of a story when it comes to sustainability within the workforce and favoring people.
So pre-pandemic, we had drivers working 6-7 days a week, 12 to 14 hours a day. Not anybody from DOT in here. No, we didn't have them on the road 12 hours, but behind the wheel 8. Okay, whatever. But you know, football season, Saints Sundays, Monday would have, you know, 5 to 10 drivers call in sick. Well, it's because they were working 6 or 7 days before the game. So we'd always have a struggle on the Monday, and it's the start of our week. So it was a real challenge for the rest of the week. So then the dreaded pandemic hits. So, and I'll give credit to my boss, who's not here today, but, you know, we were sitting around just having a discussion. He's like, we need to fix this to where we can have, you know, give these drivers and technicians a better work-life balance. So how do we do it? So instead of a 6-day work week, let's reduce their work week to 4 days. In order to do that, we have to increase the pay. But in doing that, we're hiring more drivers to fulfill the whole, because we operate 6 days a week, some areas 7 days a week. So what do? So we bring the drivers in to interview them. Hey, I'm just gonna use these numbers. If you're making $20 an hour now, we're gonna reduce you to a 4-day work week, and we're gonna pay you $25 an hour. So if you do the math, you're actually gonna make more, work less. So of course, these guys and gals are like, what's the catch? This can't be true. Well, it is true. You know, the industry that we're in is pandemic proof. From a commercial hotel, the hotels were shut down. Nobody could stay at hotels. The restaurants were closed. Everyone's cooking at home. So we do commercial, we do industrial, we do residential waste. So now our apartment complexes and everybody's 96-gallon cart looks like popcorn popping out the top. You know, the term we use is the cans are smoking. So we had to do something. So we actually hired a bunch of folks that were out of work, a bunch of CDL drivers, and they were literally lining up, because one thing that happens is in the landfills and on around the streets is the drivers are talking to each other. Man, you're not gonna believe they gave me a $6 an hour raise, and I'm working 4 days a week. The catch about the 4-day work week is on day 4, it's their overtime day. So they're not calling in sick because they want to make that overtime, right? So 4-day work week, we hired, 150 drivers in the region. And it's been going strong. And the one good thing about it for us is, when a hurricane hits us, we just put them on 6-day work week. So everybody's, working, and we're handling our customers in the field, and all the debris and the waste that's generated from these storms. So it was really a true success for our company.
And you interviewed the fellas after all the I should say fellas, the ladies and gentlemen that work for you. After this happened, what was their response? Because at first they couldn't quite believe it, and then they did it, and then what was their response since?
The response is, like I said, they were telling their peers, "You're not going to believe what's going on." So we actually got, we're the largest privately owned waste company in the country. So our owner is based in Longwood, Florida, and he received a call from a local competitor saying, "What in the hell are you guys doing in Louisiana?
Yeah.
Like I can't compete now. I got to pay these drivers more to keep them." And the owner's like, "Hey, it's just a strategy that we're trying to implement," and it worked. I mean, we're still doing it today.
That's great. So you found a way to actually increase your labor and at the same time make your company even more efficient.
And the work-life balance is so important. I know Joe was talking earlier about robotics and AI and all this stuff. We do the same. We have side-loaded residential trucks, and I don't know if they have that in Baton Rouge or not, but a lot of areas we do it. So it reduces labor, but it's also cleaner. We're picking up a can, dumping it, putting the can right back in the same spot instead of having cans in the streets, which is a lot of people are saying they're playing dodgeball with garbage cans in neighborhoods. So there's a lot of good things with the robotics and AI and different procedures and that are happening. But at the end of the day, people are our most vital asset.
So when you look at your labor as a component of sustainability, it's the work hours, it's these other things, but it's also things like safety, as I mentioned before. So ESG talks about safety. The United Nations wants people to work in safe environments. So having a strong safety program and making sure that your employees leave the same way they came that day, if not better, is all a part of the sustainable initiative that you can have within your organization. Also, payroll systems. So we don't always think about payroll systems, but there's two components to that. One is a fair wage, so making sure that people are being paid fairly wherever they may work in the world. And then secondly, there are lots of systems now that companies can offer their employees that make it easier for them to pay their bills. So a lot of you in the room have hourly workers, and so there are lots of payroll systems, maybe some of you are using them today, where employees get paid every day instead of waiting for a week or two. All those checks, cash places exist today because a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck, and what's been discovered is that these pay card systems that pays employees every single day allows them to maintain their bills and their lifestyle without having to take out microloans on their paychecks. And those are all kinds of things that you can do without having to replace everybody with robots and all these kinds of other things that we hear about that are all considered part of a sustainable organization.
Well, and again, the people that are doing one person doing the job of 5, then we reduce that by manufacturing on site, by making sure we're handling that work-life balance well, and then paying them in the right way. And then, of course, making sure that we're, strategically investing. Wasn't that the last one that we talked about, was strategic investments? And then the one before that was all about technology. So we're going to use technology and strategic investments in order to sustain our businesses. So yes, we have been talking about it all day, haven't we? Okay, Jace, you had a very interesting thing that you talked about during our call, You did a bunch of LinkedIn surveys, I believe. Can you give us some stats from those?
Yes, we did a LinkedIn survey. How has the labor shortage and supply chain issues impacted your business? 38% was a reduction in revenue. 38% was loss of a customer. That's a lost customer because you cannot supply your products. Oh, okay, there we go. And a change in quarterly projections was 25%. You guys know if a quarterly projection goes out, then that causes either you paying more interest on the loan that you got for that you're trying to cover your expenses with, and it's prolonging your pay by the time you get paid. So that's a major burden for businesses. Quarterly projections are very important to hit and to meet.
Awesome.
On the labor side, additive manufacturing, we get a lot of people like these 3D printers are going to take over people's jobs. We're actually creating higher paying jobs. Maybe you don't need as many people in your plant. We were in a plant in Austin with about 12 or 13 machines, 3 people working in the plant. So your efficiency rate is way up. Your labor costs are way down, and the personnel that are there are getting paid way higher than what you would normally pay personnel.
That's awesome. Okay, so the next part that I want to discuss is future visions. And I was like, oh, that's something that we've seen on the Jetsons. Just aged myself. But yeah, you know, the Jetsons and the Rosie the robot and the whole bit. You know, remember when they used to take all their bananas and they put them in the little chute, and I thought, oh, you know, trash compactor, or, you know, composter, and different things that they have. You said something very interesting, Leroy, about what's coming that's like for real. And there were a couple of times on the Jetsons where they take that banana peel and they put it in their spaceship.
So the Jetsons have been called my boy Elroy all my life. Thank you for that. But what Angie's talking about is the future. Where do we go from here? You know, biodiesel, you know, all these things. So we were approached by a company that wants to turn household waste into fuel. So imagine you put your trash by the road, trucks come by and picks it up. Instead of going to a landfill, we bring it to a processing plant and we convert household waste into fuel. That's coming. That's real. So it could be 3 to 5 years. Now, to what volume and what capacity, they don't know yet, but it's in the early stages, but it's happening in New Orleans. So exciting stuff.
And I think we even talked about the fact that so Amazon, whenever they make a big investment, it usually means that it's going to create a whole change in how the world works in many different ways. And just like they made an investment a few years ago in Rivian in electronic trucks, that really helped drive the EV market. Amazon now is partnering with Maersk to now have ships fueled by biofuels only. And so with that huge investment by Amazon, I think we're going to see what Leroy's talking about go to the next level very quickly, just like we saw when Amazon made the investment in EV trucks.
And again, that's happening here. That's not just happening over yonder. Yes, I said yonder. If y'all don't know where yonder is, go look it up. It's in Google. You'll see my picture by yonder, over there. It's happening here. And so you're looking at people that are sitting in your area, in your state, that are on the cutting edge of this type of technology. That's what people have been doing up here on these panels all day. So I would encourage you to make sure that you network with some of these folks and get to know with what's coming. So with an eye toward that, let's start wrapping up our final thoughts. I'd love to hear your future visions. I'd love to hear what you think's coming and what you would like to see happen. So we're going to start with Jason, work our way down.
I would definitely like to see 3D printers everywhere I go. That'd be my best envision. But we are seeing like them definitely in oil and gas applications. for sure. Automotive, hopefully soon enough you'll go to your body shop and not have to wait 2 weeks for your parts to come in for your car. They could just print it out real quick and have you back and fixed and working in a short matter of time. Definitely digital inventories. This is huge, guys. Completing no inventory at all. We have companies in Philadelphia that are doing this right now. Zero inventory, on demand as you need it. It sends a queue to the printer. Printer prints it out in the next batch of parts. It comes out, it's done. So that's really going to change logistics a lot. And by UPS, FedEx, they're all going to have printers at their stores. So you're going to be able to purchase stuff online, go to the store, parts will be printed out for you. A lot of automakers like Porsche, for example, all their older model equipment, instead of going into production and making new parts, they're having digital models of it, send it to a 3D printer, printing out that part that you need for your car to get back up and working. So the Navy is right now transitioning 7,500 parts per submarine to 3D printing, getting away from castings, which is a thing of the past, even manufacturing, because of the speed that we could bring this to the ships and get them back up and out of port. We did a case study for a large impeller for a submarine where it was taking them traditionally 52 weeks to get this part. So that means a whole year this ship is sitting in a dock. With our printers, we were able to print this impeller in a matter of 2 weeks, have it on the ship and the ship out of dock. So you reducing times like that and cost savings. It's just phenomenal what this technology is going to do throughout the world.
All right, Mr. Leroy.
Okay. So never in my life that I would think I'd be in the garbage business. But, now I'm all in. Ride on the interstates and the highways and just, seeing people litter. 10 years ago, probably wouldn't have bothered me. Now it's like, did you really just throw something out of your window and you just could have waited a few minutes to put it in a container somewhere? So I'm hoping that in the future that we improve overall with litter. It sounds simple, but obviously it's not. Also, the work-life balance that we've talked about earlier is so important, I think, not just to my industry, but to all industries. Times are changing. We talked about the dreaded woke term, and I won't go into that too much, but we just need to be conscious of people and just keep moving forward as a country. And I was really the keynote speaker hit me pretty hard. How in tune this gentleman is. With industry, and I'm glad he was here today. So I can go on forever, kind of like John.
Remember, I'm a professor, so we tend to ramble. I have two things, really. One, and I'll try to keep it brief. I know I've got 6 minutes or less. So one is every company has a different definition of sustainability. Every organization, every government. Just like Randy said earlier, every company wants you to use their system to work with them. It's going to be the same thing going forward for a while. So you really need to learn about what are the different programs that are most talked about. The UN 17 goals, ESG, and now more than ever, all of you in this room, and I think this is an immediate call to action if you haven't already started to be working on this, is the Walmart Gigaton program or project, as well as the California state law that has just been passed that requires companies over $1 billion that do business in the state of California to now report all upstream and downstream activities as it relates to greenhouse gases. So Every single person in this room is going to be affected by those two things. The Walmart Gigaton project will affect every single person in this room, as well as the California bill that was just passed. Even though it's over $1 billion, every supplier that does business with a company that does business in the state of California, every trucking company, every warehouse company will have to start reporting Scope 3 types of requirements. And so to Leroy's point earlier, this is a huge challenge for everybody. You have to have the money to be able to do the reporting. You have to have the resources to comply and to answer all the surveys you're going to get from all the different companies that you do business with. And while I was working with Community Coffee 3 years ago, Walmart approached them to fill out their gigaton survey. And if anybody else in the room has had to do this, it is a lot of work and it requires a lot of resources. So start thinking about how you're going to respond, because gigaton is the new norm, and it's also a condition of doing business going forward, as well as now the state of California will require you to meet the Scope 3 requirements, and you're going to have people, resources, and money dedicated to complying with those requirements. So from this meeting, I hope you all walk away and start putting together the pieces that you need to, because you're going to get phone calls from your customers demanding that you tell them how much you pay your employees, how you treat your employees, how safe your facilities are, what kind of herbicide you use, all those different kinds of things. It's happening, and you just need to be prepared for it.
I think our biggest takeaway from this particular panel is you got here. Regardless of how you think you got here, you got here. So our goal now is leave it better than you got it. How about that? Y'all have a great day, and be sure to talk to these folks and the rest of the folks in the room. Thank you to the sponsors for letting us do this, and y'all have a great afternoon.